For the past 8 years, I had poured my heart and soul into raising Lisa and Connor, my stepchildren. I married their mother, Clara, when they were just 6 and 8 years old. I had been there for all the milestones: Connor's first soccer goal, Lisa's middle school science fair win, scraped knees, late-night fevers, and the whispered secrets that only a trusted parent could hear. I thought of them as my own, despite the absence of my blood in their veins, but now, on the cusp of adulthood, Lisa preparing for college, Connor bristling at the boundaries of high school, they had grown distant. The proclamation came on a rainy Tuesday evening. Dinner plates lay scattered across the table. Half-eaten lasagna growing cold. "You're not our real dad," Lisa said, her voice steady, but her eyes darting nervously to Connor for backup. He nodded, emboldened by her words. I felt the words land like a gut punch. I stared at them, my fork frozen mid-air. Clara's eyes widened, her hand going to her mouth in shock. "I see," I said finally, my voice quiet. I set my fork down, my appetite gone. "Is that how you both feel?" Connor looked at Lisa, and she nodded. "Yeah. I mean, you've been here, but it's not the same. You're not our real dad." My first instinct was to argue, to plead my case, to list the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, and the unconditional love I had poured into them. But I held back. I looked at Clara, whose face was a mix of sorrow and helplessness. "All right," I said after a moment. "If that's how you feel, then that's how it is. But let's see how you handle life without me being your real dad." The next morning, I made good on my promise. It wasn't out of spite, but a lesson I hoped would sink deeper than any lecture. I left the usual morning routine to Clara and stayed out of the way as Lisa and Connor scrambled to pack their lunches, find their books, and make it to the bus stop on time. The chaos was palpable: Lisa's exasperated cries over a missing textbook, Connor's frustrated banging of the toaster as he burned his last piece of bread. I watched silently from the kitchen doorway, a hollow ache in my chest, when Lisa's car broke down a week later. She called me as she always did. "Hey, my car won't start. Can you come look at it?" "Did you call your real dad?" I asked, my tone neutral. There was silence on the other end. "No, he's busy. Can you just?" "I'm sure you'll figure it out," I said before hanging up. Afterward, I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the rain streaking down the window. Part of me wanted to run to her rescue, but I stayed put. She needed to understand. Connor's predicament came next. He had a big history project due and couldn't find his notes. "I need help." "I don't know where anything is," he said, standing in the doorway of my home office, his voice tinged with desperation. "Have you asked your mom?" I replied, not looking up from my laptop. "She's busy. Can you just?" Connor's voice trailed off as I met his eyes. "I'm sure you'll figure it out," I said, echoing my earlier response. He turned and left, muttering under his breath, and I heard him slam his bedroom door. Over the following weeks, my absence in their lives became glaringly obvious. The small, unnoticed acts of care I'd provided, fixing things, offering advice, being the steady presence they'd taken for granted, were now absent. Clara, while supportive of my decision, struggled to juggle the new weight of responsibilities. I overheard her on the phone one night, her voice trembling as she vented to a friend. "I feel like everything's falling apart," she said. It was hard not to step in, but I held my ground. One evening, Clara sat the kids down. "I think it's time we talk about what you said," she began. "He's been part of your lives for years. Do you really think he's not your dad?" Lisa looked down, guilt flickering across her face. Connor shifted uncomfortably. "It's just. He's not our real dad," Lisa said, her voice quieter now. "Being a dad isn't about biology," Clara said firmly, her voice breaking slightly. "It's about showing up, caring, and loving you even when it's hard. He has done that and more. Can you honestly say he hasn't?" Lisa and Connor exchanged glances. They had always known, deep down, that I loved them. But the complexity of their feelings, loyalty to their biological father, teenage rebellion, and the desire for independence had clouded their judgment. The turning point came when Lisa's college application required a parent's recommendation letter. She hesitated to ask me, unsure if I'd agree. But she mustered the courage and knocked on my office door. "Hey," she began awkwardly, her voice barely above a whisper. I need a recommendation letter for college. Would you? Would you write one? I looked up, surprised. Me? I thought I wasn't your real dad. Lisa's face crumpled, and tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't mean it. You've always been there for us. I don't know why I said it. My expression softened. I stood and pulled her into a hug, her sobs muffled against my chest. It's okay, I said. I've always loved you, Lisa. And I always will. Connor's apology came later, less tearful but just as heartfelt. Thanks for not giving up on us, he said, extending a hand for a firm shake that turned into an awkward but genuine hug. I felt the weight of his words, the sincerity behind them. In the end, I didn't need to be their real dad by blood. My love, unwavering and steadfast, had always been enough. And now, they finally saw it too.